Honourable Mentions.
Hello, listener. Welcome to a rather special episode of your favouriteest podcast, Honourable Mentions, with Dan from Boo Foons. All right, sort of name that, Dan. It's a stand-up name. And Steve from Boo Foons, which is a fantastic, sexy, manly kind of name, I find.
It's the best, isn't it? Yeah.
It is the best name.
Yeah.
Drives women mad. How are you two?
Yes, very well, thank you. Yes.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about Boo Foons, your podcast?
This is where I let Dan do it because I don't know anything about the podcast. I just turn out.
The Boo Foons Mystery Investigators is the name of our podcast. We investigate several mysteries, so from folklore, ghost stories, aliens, anything that's a bit weird or unusual is what we cover. That's our normal Wednesday show. And then Saturdays, we've now started Boo Foons Off the Case, where it's just Steve and I, sometimes sounding like two bitter old men like Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets, sometimes actually being entertaining and being a little bit ridiculous and silly. That gives us a platform to be us and our normal selves. So that's the Boo Foons Mystery Investigators, available on all podcast providers and, social media.
It's a wonderful podcast, listener. It's our favourite, and we're very, very pleased to have Steve and Dan with us for our special episode. But don't leave us, listener, because you're thinking, where is he? Where's Captain Showbiz himself? He's here, standing by, ready to go. Hello, Neil.
What's up, Steve?
Had a hit after that big build-up.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you get.
You're not going to come bounding down the stairs with your sequin jacket on.
I've already done that. That's what I was waiting for, your boring intro.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's charming, isn't it? We have guests on, you call them boring. So,
I've already done the sparkly jacket and the jazz hands.
You've done all that bit.
Yeah.
Off screen. Before we begin...
Yeah, best place.
I do that every morning when I wake up.
Yeah, that's how you get out there.
That's how I get out of bed. Sparkly jacket, jazz hands, walk down the stairs, kicking my feet.
And I noticed that as you joined this morning, you had Tom Jones playing in the background and you were telling us, we don't have to leave our hat on.
Yeah, do all that.
That's just you, isn't it? Your showbiz lifestyle these days.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
So before we begin, everybody, and find ourselves inundated by an email, let's deal with the elephant in the room. You know, Olivia Dean, Chapa Ryan, and Dua Lipa, and all those sort of people. What would your name be in the inevitability of you becoming a pop sensation? We'll start with Dan.
I'd just go with Dan.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like you said, Dua Lipa and all of those, they're very unusual names, aren't they? And I don't know how they come up with such names, really. Like the fact that Elton John ended up choosing Elton John. Although I do quite like David Tennant's story of how he casually chose Tennant purely because of Neil Tennant, because there was already a McDonald out there. So when he had to choose his stage name, he had to choose a new surname, went with Tennant because he was a fan of the Pet Shop Boys. So,
there you go.
That's a true story, yeah. What about you, Neil?
Me, I'll change it to Bethlehem Steel.
Oh, we spoke about Bethlehem Steel in the past. You're still sticking with that?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's not very feminine, but it's all right.
It's not very feminine. I'll wear it feminine, but I could be a film star and a pop star. Bethlehem Steel.
It's a good one. What about you, Steve?
Oh, God, I don't know. I know a couple of people in the industry at the moment, they're just using their names. And it's because they've run out of other names to use. So it would have to be a random name generator. I was just trying to Google for my porn name generator, because that would obviously be it. What was that? Was it your pet and the last
Pet
food you ate
last,
or something?
Last food you ate, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So what would that be? That'd be Tinker Kebab. Yeah,
Tinker Kebab.
Tinker Kebab. That'll be it.
That's the winner. I've gone... because I've already thought this through.
Well, you would do, because you didn't drop in our lap like you've had it sorted out.
I've gone for spooky episode, which is coincidental because that's what we have today for you, listener. A spooky episode. Yoicks.
That is spooky. Well done, Stephen. See what you did there. Great link.
We do like a spooky episode. We thrive on spooky episodes.
We'll have the listener hiding behind the sofa in mid-sweat.
Is that similar to a ghost poo?
No. That's why we don't have to wipe, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like a spooky episode. It's a posh way of saying it, isn't it? What's that spooky episode?
It just creeps up on you in the middle of the night. Gets you unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Has anyone here ever been to Kringa, please?
Can you say it again so we can understand it?
Kringa. Kringa.
No.
Until now, I didn't even think it was a real place. I thought that was your pop star name.
Oh, it could be another one, couldn't it?
You sure it's not Cringer? It's not Cringer, or people doing this here.
Was that the name of He-Man's cat?
There was something to do with He-Man, I'm sure.
Cringer, no, and it turned into Hellcat, wasn't it, or something like that?
Battle Cat.
Yeah, Battle Cat, that's Cringer, it, not Hellcat.
Yeah, a bunch of middle-aged men already reverting.
And then there's me thinking of Kris Kringle.
Just to warn you, I don't know how old you guys are, but Dan is about 25 years younger than me. So I imagine he's a bit young for this kind of thing.
Steve's in his 60s and I'm early 50s.
Dan's, he's a spring chicken compared to everybody else, I think. He won't know any of these references. He's never heard of He-Man.
What? Of course I know He-Man. Because I know the meme.
The meme, that's it. This is how young he is. He only knows it through a meme.
Yeah, the Skeletor memes and everything.
So if I said, I am the power, it wouldn't mean anything to you whatsoever.
Well, I know he has a sword and he puts it up in the air and then turns from some sort of, he turns into He-Man, but he's some sort of weak person to start with, isn't he? It's kind of like
the power of Grayskull.
The thing is, he's muscle bound already. All he does is take his clothes off.
Yeah. I always thought it was a bit like Banana Man, where Banana Man's a kid and then eats a banana and turns into a superhero.
Yeah. You're just being silly now.
Yeah,
that's good.
Kringa, as you'll know, is a village on the site of an ancient Iron Age hill fort in the region of Istria, modern-day Croatia.
Right.
If you visit it today, you'll find its traditional stone-built houses and shade from the relentless sun and its narrow, cobbled streets.
How do you have this relentless sun? They've got to have night times as well, surely.
No, they don't in Croatia.
They're not.
Don't you know anything? No. 24 hours sun.
I did see a video of somebody going to visit Kringa once, and they actually said they had to go at night because they've got a habit of chopping heads off anyone who disturbs them. So even they've got, I don't know if he was just joking, but he did turn up in the middle of the night to go to Kringa. I think he said he was chased out by dogs, and there was a pack of wolves that would chase him out of town. It looks an amazing place because it hasn't changed probably since it was actually built. But yeah, I think he was touring the area, and he said he didn't want to hang around Kringa when the people were out. Don't know if that goes with this legend or this story, but.
I was going to say, thanks, Steve. That's ruined the entire episode for everybody. You summarised it in 30 seconds. So thank you, listener, for joining us.
That's it. Job done.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cut that all out. Never heard of Istria. Sorry, never heard of it, Steve. Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
I will admit, I do like Croatia. It's got one of my favourite coastlines because it's a massive middle finger to Bosnia because they sort of like have that whole coastline that goes all the way down of like, ha ha ha, you can have any coastline except for the tiniest of little bit to the south. So I like Croatia purely because they're like, no, Bosnia, you can't have any beaches. All the beaches are ours.
That's a very good accent, by the way. It's very good.
Yeah.
It sounded Croatian when you said that. Yeah, that was good.
Neil was multilingual, by the way.
I am multilingual, yeah. I speak most languages.
Can you do your Croatian, Neil?
Yes, that's very good. See?
Yes. What does that actually mean in English?
That means, yes, it's very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll be translating things as we go through. You may be forgiven for thinking that it hasn't changed much over the centuries, because it hasn't, which was previously observed by Steve there. Well done, Steve, for ruining the episode. Way back in 1579, a baby boy was born in Kringa, and his parents named him Jure. Jure Alilovic.
Oh.
Did he bend spoons by looking at them?
Say rubbing spoons and bend them and just annoy everybody.
Or he did a bit more than that.
Did he?
Or go, yes, if you're patient and just sit nicely and stop interrupting, we'll get there.
I was tired.
Jure would grow to spend his entire life in Kringa. He became a stonemason and met and eventually married a woman called Ivana. Together they had a daughter, Anna, and a son they named Nikola. And by all accounts, Jure Alilovich was a bit of a unit because he took the nickname Grando.
Who?
Grando.
Grando Yuli.
Grando, no, he was the other way around now. He was Jure Grando because he was a bit of a large man, and Grando means that large and intimidating, etc.
Do you know, talking about a few episodes ago on one of our podcasts, we were talking about how big people were over periods of time because, like you're saying, he was a bit large, a bit big, and we assumed that people were shorter years ago. And people have just evolved to become taller and bigger. And we looked into it and found out in the 4th century, the average height of a man in the UK was almost 6 foot tall. And that's because it wasn't overpopulated. There was good food. People were nourished. They were tall. So this thinking people were always short. Yeah. Obviously, if they survived. Yeah. But we're talking in the Dark Ages when your food was low quality. People were smaller then when they were building those caves with small doors, but that was just down to nourishment. But there were still people who wore armor that was like 6 foot plus. There were still suits of armor built for some guys, some of the royalty, noble families who were in their 6 foot.
Eating well.
So, they're eating
it's all
well.
down to diet. Perhaps we should do a dietary thing. A dietary podcast and come up with all this different information.
I wonder if
one of those, my diet just makes me wider. That's it. I have to get through more chairs than usual. I went for a men's walk the other week for charity and ended up having to buy a new pair of trousers afterwards. I rubbed the inside of the thighs out. And
tell you what, let's just do a podcast and when you just say, just eat what you like. You only hear once, just crack on. If you want a burger, tuck in. This is the best one you can get. It's full of cheese. It's got bacon in it. Dip your bread in gravy.
Yeah, we can all be Grando. That's what we're saying. We can all be Grando.
Yeah.
So some of our episodes actually do have Steve just casually eating in the background. It was has the Krasu episode gone out? It has, hasn't it? About the floating head. Throughout that one, you were actually eating noodles the entire time, which was brilliant. It was very on theme.
So how do you casually eat? Is there a difference between casually eat and normally eat?
He was
I just don't wipe off the drips. Yeah.
Right.
We've spoken about Jure Grando, being called Jure Grando and being a bit of a unit and the big fella. That may be all we know about him. This unremarkable stonemason who never left his hometown in Eastern Europe. So thank you for making the effort to join us, and we'll be back again next week, listener.
Yeah, great. Enjoyed that.
Yeah, except...
Spooky.
Except I'm not happy to end it there, so I did some digging, but that didn't help. So then I went back indoors and got Google out and found out as much as I could about Jure Grando. My careful analysis suggests that at some point Jure Grando may have died.
Well, I would have thought so from back then.
Yeah.
It'd be a bit weird, more spooky if he was alive now, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Pushing up the daisies, kick the bucket, shuffled off his mortal coil, run down the curtain and join the bleeding choir invisible for Monty Python fans.
Do you remember Monty Python, Dan?
He does for those memes.
Not from it being live, but I have watched all of Monty Python. I do love Monty Python.
We went to see him live at the O2 a few years ago.
Oh, wow. Was that when they were all together for the last time?
Yeah. Well, apart from Graham Chapman, that is really, really good. It was something else, I tell you.
Yeah, I bet.
Terry Jones was minimal, but he was there. I can't remember her name as well, but the lady who used to appear in the Monty Python episodes, she was in there as well. And then they've got one half of Little Britain. Who's the baldy guy at Little Britain?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, him. He was with them. So we went to, that was very, very good. Very, very good. Anyway.
Clang.
Thanks.
Sorry, when Steve name drops, I'll just do a clang. Has he told you he's been to Australia? Surely you've heard it. Mention it on every podcast.
Been to Australia, Steve?
Do you know what? I don't mention it. Neil mentions it on every podcast. I have actually, yes. I mean, if you like, afterwards, I'll tell you about it. If you want to,
He's got a slideshow and everything for you if you want.
Yeah, soil samples the works.
It's when you then discover that it wasn't Australia, it's actually Austria.
I've been there as well.
Clang!
Right, in fact, I was able to narrow down the date of Jure Grando's death to somewhere between the year 1579 and around 10 minutes ago. Then, using a scientific technique I call research, I went further still and discovered that I was right and he did die.
Well,
So he'll be thanking me later. And he died, not only that, but within my proposed timeline. So it is well something. He died in the year 1656. So about 4 minutes to 5 in the afternoon. Here's where it gets really interesting, chaps, because I fed that information into a supercomputer, which flashed up with loads of lights and turned out a load of tape. And it reveals 1656 was an actual year that really happened. So that just adds some truth into what I'm going to tell you next.
Was it like the Chock-a-Block supercomputer?
Chock-a-block, 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 chock-a-block. Chock-a-block. Yes. In fact, it wasn't like the Chock-a-Block supercomputer. It was.
Yeah, of course.
The Chock-a-Block supercomputer, backed up by Bertha.
Dan won't know that one because there's not been any memes about it.
No.
You have to look at Chock-a-Block and then see when they get something wrong because it goes, that's a fart.
Chock-a-Block checking in. Does it mean anything to you, Dan?
No idea.
Oh, hey, he's learned something today. That's good.
What about Bertha?
Oh, Bertha, lovely Bertha. Sometimes I think you're a dream. When we work out what you have to do, you can always turn the goods out. Always turn the goods out. We can depend upon you.
All I know of Bertha is when I was a kid, you used to go to the arcade and there was a game called Big Bertha, which was a big lady with a big mouth.
Yeah, I think that might be a different thing.
Throw the balls in, you got tickets for every ball that went into her mouth.
Blimey, your arcade sounds a bit liberal.
Yeah. A big lady with her big legs, and you had to throw the balls in, and the legs open wide until she burst.
Until you got all your balls in.
Until you got out.
Wow.
No. Did you grow up in Bedford, Dan?
No, I didn't know. I'm a Norfolk boy originally.
There you go, then. That's what's going on.
And they just got colour TV out there, haven't they?
Yeah. Was the lady in the arcade your cousin?
Well, she was my cousin and my mum at the same time. Yeah.
Nice.
No, it was around Great Yarmouth, the Big Bertha machines I remember seeing. And
so
they were in nearly every arcade, yeah.
That's when you know Potter's Confectioners of Great Yarmouth.
Potter's Confectioners.co.uk, Neil.
Yes, of Great Yarmouth.
Manufacturers of chocolate and sweets.
Yes.
And retailers of quality nougat.
In my personal opinion, I prefer the other one, which is called Docras. Sorry, Potters. And sorry, guys, for ruining the chance of the free nugget. Yeah. Yeah. You can actually go in there and watch them making sticks of rock.
Well,
that's where I'm going to be spending some time then, because I like watching things like that.
And let's face it, you go to Yarmouth, that's about all there is to do, isn't it?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh. It's amazing how good rock looks before it becomes hard. When it's still soft and they're manipulating it in that machine that looks. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Flaccid rock.
Flaccid rock. Rather than a mouthful of flaccid rock than hard rock.
Don't eat it soft. You've got to wait for it to get hard. That could be their logo, couldn't it?
That could be, if you're going to put a genre on Coldplay, it's a flaccid rock. It could stick them quite nicely.
Yeah. That actually is perfect for them, yeah. Let's like to choke on it for a start. Anyway, sorry.
I think I might open a rock shop and do that. Say, don't eat it soft, stick it in your mouth when it's hard. There you go.
Just leave it a little bit longer, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the amount of editing I'm now going to have to do.
Hi, Stephen Neil's mum.
We're being for a thick ear. I'll tell you after this one.
I've already got one of them.
The part of Jure Grando's story that we're interested in didn't start until after he died. Yes, I did say after. We don't know what caused Jure Grando to fall off his perch, but the story is that he became weak and his bulky frame all but wasted away before he drew his last breath. He was buried. He drew his last breath, yeah. He had a bit of paper and a crayon.
A crayon?
And yeah, that's what they make you do in the Catholic Church.
Do they?
Part of the rites, yeah. The priest comes in and he gives you a bit of paper and a crayon.
See, that's when he knows his time's up.
Yeah. And he says, when you're ready, draw your last breath on there.
Fair enough.
Jure was buried without much fuss in a small ceremony in the local graveyard, which is handy. To be buried in the graveyard, I suppose.
I thought it was Jure, not Andy.
Yeah, that's how it translates into English. I thought you know that now.
Oh, okay, sorry. Fair enough.
Almost. As the last shovel load backfilled the hole he lay in, peculiar things started to happen in sleepy little Kringa. People reported some of their livestock went missing. Then some claimed to see a mysterious shadowy figure around the village at night with a seemingly immovable, gruesome, twisted grin on its pale face.
That's going to be some YouTuber, isn't it?
Do you think so? Or, or someone who's into Dungeons and Dragons. Just to up the weirdo ante, even though we don't still have Neil. Hello, Neil.
Hello. Thank you for that.
Some claimed that this figure had a dead sheep thrown over one shoulder and a black cat riding on the other. It's an interesting look, isn't it? I don't think it can stand out.
It is. I mean,
others said he was wearing a Cure t-shirt and a Bauhaus playing in his headphones.
The dead sheep over his shoulder. It sounds like Jon Snow.
Jon Snow from the north.
Yeah, King of the North.
Whatever the truth, Neil, the figure returned night after night, always moving with graceful silence, even though he got a dead sheep over one shoulder and the cat on the other, and always clinging to the shadows.
You don't want to draw attention to yourself. You don't carry a dead sheep on one shoulder, do you?
No,
you might as well be out in the open.
You don't walk around with a 70s guitar pop group either, do you?
70s guitar pop group.
Yeah, what's Hank Marvin? He'd be too happy about this bloke dragging him around everywhere.
The shadows.
Right, Dan, that was an old band, Dan. It was just to let Dan know it was music, Dan.
I know because my mother is the biggest Cliff Richard fan there is going, so I am well aware of who the Shadows are and who Hank Marvin is and all of them. I was tortured with it as a child.
I'll see your mother and raise you out another, won't we, Neil?
Yes, she's a big Cliff Richard fan.
She is, yes. She used to chase his bus around. And she comes from Northampton, and once he played at the Derngate, and Mum chased his bus up the street, apparently, so we're told.
There's never been a sense he went to Northampton.
Way before our time. Yeah, Northampton. You ever been?
Back when she was fit and healthy.
You ever been to Northampton?
You chase a bus.
Yes, to go and visit the other branch of Close Encounters because Alan Moore was there doing a signing.
Alan Moore? He comes from Northampton.
Yeah.
That's one good thing that's come out of Northampton. Alan Moore and Ivan Toney. Other than that, the only other good thing that's come out of Northampton is the M1.
Carlsberg.
Carlsberg doesn't come from Northampton, does it?
Yeah.
Well, it's got a big union there, says Carlsberg.
The huge brewery there that make pretty much every mass-produced beer across the UK, apart from Guinness.
There you go.
So even those ones like Madri, which is apparently from Madrid, it's from Northampton. Yeah, that Spanish town of Northampton.
There you go, Steve.
That's true, I know, that's true. They just stick a moustache on the front and make everyone think it's Spanish. But it's not. It's from Northampton.
Stereotypical.
Northampton piss water anyway.
Hey, gringo.
Is that your Northampton accent?
Yeah, but with the moustache on.
Nice moustache. When does Ron Jeremy want that back?
Livestock continued to disappear until they didn't. Instead, villagers began to wake to find that animals were very much where they left them, but demolished in a vicious frenzy beyond any known predator. Then the knocking began. Deep into one particularly dark moonless night, an old man who lived alone heard a peculiar knocking at his door, a distinctive quick rap of knuckles, and then an eerie stillness. It was Run DMC.
I say it wasn't Vanilla Ice or something like that, then, was it?
It might have been the real Slim Shady, because, I mean, it's the shadows were out there.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
What did Hank Marvin? He couldn't really do rap, could he?
You never know, do you?
When he opened it, though, there was no one there. Could have been Slim Shady. He wouldn't have seen him in the shade. A few days later, that man was dead.
Yeah. Probably stood in the doorway all that time, still looking. Just thinking he's probably starved to death. Thinking, there's someone here. Yeah, so there's definitely heard a racking. For 4 days stood on his doorstep thinking, oh.
The pattern began to repeat, though, Neil. A household would report a strange incident in the night, a quick rap, again, of knuckles on their door. But when they answered, there was nobody there. And then, sure enough, within days of their disturbance, someone in that dwelling would die. And then Ivana Aliloyevich spoke out. She said that her deceased husband was sometimes appearing in the bedroom of his former home and sexually assaulting her.
Steve, we keep talking on our podcast about every time we look at a story of a giant or somebody being described as big, they always seem to be sexually assaulting women. This is a pattern that we've noticed.
Yeah, these stories, they're always a bit rapey. I don't know what it is.
We're back to red etting and dinging of princesses.
Oh, I guess it's one of the fears, isn't it? This is going along with, if you're going to make a story terrifying, this is a pretty terrifying way to make a story, because who knows who'll be next. Those people who were dying, maybe they were being listed as well. Maybe that's what. Maybe they were just so embarrassed by what happened.
Yeah.
They just let themselves go.
Died of shame. Not saying anything about any current presidents, because that wouldn't be appropriate, would it?
No, let's not mention that.
Let's not mention that at all.
Any member of the royal family or member of the current Labour Party or friends of the member of the Labour Party is pretty much anybody in power at the moment. This could be anybody.
I think we're on pretty safe ground.
Yeah,
in fact, let's go for it. I think we're on pretty safe ground.
Anybody, really.
The former member of the royal family, formerly known as Prince.
Yeah.
I think we're all right with him. Because let's face it, he was a bit hands-on, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Hands-on was that?
Yeah, he was a bit. He's a bit handy.
Yeah.
Mandelson has always been a bit creepy.
Yeah.
And if Donald Trump would like to sue us for calling him a paedophile, then do it. Because the only way you're going to prove your innocence, mate, is to get those files out.
Well, the paedophiles.
Yeah. That'd get us noticed, wouldn't it? Small-time podcast with one listener. Manages to pull out Donald.
Everybody be listening next week. That'd be great.
Yeah, let's have it.
We're getting dragged off to Guantanamo.
Bring it on.
I've said it now. Come on, get me, Donald.
And that is an honourable mention.
Anyway, Ivana, right? Again, interesting name, Neil, as you correctly pointed out, ties in with a certain family. She said that her deceased husband was sometimes appearing with all this, and she said he never spoke. He just kept grinning and gasping for air as he wrestled her.
Oh, God, I know what that's like.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, just anything I do, I grasp for air, whatever I try to do. Oh. And grinning is just the sign of pain.
I thought you were talking about sexually assaulting people.
I was going to say,
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
If ever you get in trouble, Dan, don't have Steve as an expert witness, a character witness. Like you're right in it. Yeah, I know what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what it's like.
Yeah, I've wrestled dead people. There could be no longer any doubt or rational explanation because Kringa had got itself a strigoi. Everyone look at me with blank faces. As experts in spooky and all things a bit eerie, like if you presented a podcast called Boo Foons or something like that, you'd know that a strigoi is a cross between a vampire and a warlock.
It's a great name.
A warlock is a sorcerer or wizard who has come over to the dark side.
And his wife.
Yes, he's definitely come over here, didn't he? A couple of times.
Yeah. Every night, apparently, for 16 years.
So, yeah.
If you could do. He's like Lord Voldemort, only a little bit more Darth Vader-y.
And a bit more rapey, yeah.
Darth Vader would beat Voldemort in a fight, hands down, no problem.
Oh, yeah, he'd use the Force, whereas Voldemort would just get his twig, wouldn't he? Oh, no, I've dropped my twig.
All you got to do is take his stick off him and snap it, and he's buggered, isn't he? No one does is fight a kid with a stick.
He lost out, yeah.
Yeah.
I've met Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh.
No, there's no clang with that one, sorry.
You're not going to clang it.
No.
I met Robbie Coltrane invited me and my wife to gate crash Quincy Jones's party.
Now there's a clang.
Yeah. Managed to get it all in one there. Quincy Jones, greatest record producer of all time. Yeah, God, we should have said yes. The worst story ever is to say no. We said no, got to go to work the next day.
Oh, no. But I was in London. I was in London meeting Margot Robbie, true story. And then afterwards, we went to a play in which Daniel Radcliffe was taking part. And in this play, we come from a place called the Deepings, or Market Deeping. And in this play, Daniel Radcliffe's character mentioned Deeping Fen. And if you were quick enough around the back of the theatre afterwards, he would sign some autographs and meet people and stuff like that. So when I was actually first in the queue, so when I got to see him, I said, I'm from Market Deeping, near Deeping Fen. And he just looked at me and then his eyes drifted across to security. Then back at me, like, what is this idiot talking about?
Coming from this fictional place.
Yeah, obviously. I think they must know their lines, but they don't the lines don't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's just something they say to get through that part of the play. And he obviously had no connection whatsoever that I was trying to make with him. But anyway, he was nice. Took a photograph, signed.
Better than Ramesh.
Ramesh thingy, Ranganese.
He didn't see you.
He did, yeah. He told me to tell Neil that he's a prick.
Because I said that Steve looks like a white Ramesh Ranganathan.
And I told him that, and he looked at me and he said, "Tell your brother he's a prick."
Oh, that's a much better interaction.
Am I wrong or am I right?
Not that you're a prick. Yes.
No, that you look like a white Ramesh.
I think that's rather insulting to Ramesh Ranganathan, to be fair.
Bloody hell. Well, thanks, listener. That's the end of today's podcast. The rest of it I'll do on my own. Anyway, where was I?
Sexually assaulting.
No, we done
yes,
that.
boys with sticks.
Boys with sticks. Oh, right. So, okay.
Let's try that again.
How did that happen, you may ask? I can't even remember what it was we're talking about. What it was? How did he turn into a Strigoi?
Oh, Strigoi, yes.
Well, you remember our friend Jure Grando. He was a fit and healthy stonemason who was taken ill, became weak, then bedbound, and slowly wasted away as if he was being eaten from within. So his illness most definitely could not have been anything horrible like untreated cancer or some such. No, obviously, he'd been at it with the children's blood, hadn't he? And as we all know, a warlock drinking children's blood would eventually be transformed into a night-walking, immortal Strigoi. So it's a natural progression.
But it makes me wonder, were there any reports? They don't mention anywhere any reports of people saying children's blood was being drunk prior to this.
Well, exactly. You don't
I thought that would have made the headlines. That would have made the headlines before he died.
Yeah.
So they said there was a village and all these children were getting their blood drunk. No one knew how.
Villagers noticing lots of woozy teenagers staggering around the street.
Sounds like Northampton.
Pale-faced teenagers passing out in the street through lack of blood. No one said anything about that.
Yeah.
But it was obvious, really, when you think about it.
There must be a vampire in Northampton then, 'cause that's what they do there.
Well, teenagers staggering out. I think that's more to do with large consumption of alcohol and the fumes coming from that factory that Dan spoke of with their fake Spanish beer.
CC.
Now, the locals were scared witless because they didn't know how to handle a proper, all-up-in-your-face Strigoi. The Alalovich children, Anna and Nicola, were taken away to Italy, 550 kilometres or 340 miles away, to their safety. So that should get them out of the way, shouldn't it?
Yeah, but they left the mum there. She's the one who needed to get away.
Yeah, she was She was having a good time, by the sounds of it.
She's accidentally forgot to lock the door every night.
Back then, society wasn't as mobile as today. If your life was in Kringa, your land, your home, your work was in Kringa. So you were stuck where you are. So guess how long the villagers were forced to remain with the oppression and fear of an undead Jure Grando walking their streets? Neil.
2 years.
Dan.
15.
Steve, you can have a guess, but you do it in months.
Months? 59 months. That's just a random figure.
If I could just use one word, it would be pathetic. 5,840 nights, or 192 months. And a round of applause for Dan, because it's actually 16 very long, very frightening years. Then you say 15. So
there we go.
Well
you're
done,
very
Dan.
close. Yeah,
I win the washing machine for being the closest without going a penny over.
Yeah, congratulations.
but you get a chance to gamble for Speedboat later on.
Yes.
Which may be another reference you won't get as well. I don't know. 16 very long, very frightening years filled with people,
Very
friends,
sore
and
years
neighbours, all
for
suddenly
Ivana.
dropping dead, or very sore years for Ivana. Yeah.
Sore, very sore. Calloused. She was calloused by the end of that.
Do you think she
I think
was?
she
Just
would
like-
be.
Yeah, just like the back of your feet. It's like the soles of your feet. That's what it was like there.
Feel like
After
a welly
16
top.
years of visitation.
Like Chewbacca's autopsy.
Feel like a skydiver's mouth.
Edit. The sickening sight of decimated carcasses of your pets and livestock littering the hills. If you didn't go out after sunset, you spent your night in dread and fear of a quick rap of knuckles on your door, knowing how easily it could be you next. The church and prayer were the only hope you had. So the people cowered, they trembled, they prayed, and those who survived, and thank God that they did. It was very religious times, wasn't it?
Yes.
Sorry, can I just interrupt here for a second? I've just had a look. Even today, Kringa only has 300 people living there. So if every night somebody died after having someone knock on their doors, where did this population come from for 16 years of somebody dying every time he knocked on the door?
Well, because they now have 300 people living there. Then it was a burgeoning metropolis.
like
300,000
I didn't think of that.
people.
That was it.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
They had a monorail.
Logic, just logical.
Yeah, exactly.
Monorail.
They had all of
Yeah.
that. Monorail.
Mono. Don't.
Yeah. You remember that episode now? You look very blank face. No. Okay.
That's one that has Leonard Nimoy in it.
Is it?
Yeah, he's on the monorail when it starts to the brake goes wrong, and then at the end he then takes all the credit for saving the day when it was Homer. And there's this joke in it where it's something on the lines of Leonard Nimoy goes, "Oh, good, we saved the day," and Homer's like, "But you did nothing." And he's like, "Didn't I? Didn't
I
I?"
remember that. In the end, even the faithful could come round to the idea that God may be indeed of a little encouragement. So, in 1672, the villagers gathered together and went to see Father Giorgio, the Kringa priest. Father Giorgio, sounds like a pizza parlour, doesn't it? Father Giorgio sprang into action and held a mass at Jure Grando's graveside because he
I think I
couldn't
might change it to my pop name. I like that.
Father Giorgio. Sounds a bit kiddie-friendly. Too kiddie-friendly, doesn't it? Oh, look, everybody, it's Father Giorgio. You know, the mum's taking the kids off to one side. Stay there, Billy. Come and get some more. Father Giorgio sprang into action and held a mass at Jure Grando's graveside because he couldn't have done that before, could he? Not in the
16 years he could have done that any time over the previous 16 years.
I just thought of it as the villagers were getting angsty with him. The idea was to stave off the nightly visits and give Ivana a well-deserved rest.
She did.
The question is, did they actually ask Ivana if she wanted this to happen?
I would imagine she couldn't walk.
It'd been an honest episode of Scooby-Doo. Come after the watershed. Fred and Daphne used to go off. I used to wonder what they're getting up to all the time.
I think I've seen an episode on Pornhub.
Rather specialist search.
Yeah.
A couple of nights after Father Giorgio's mass, Jure Grando paid him a personal visit and scared the living bejesus out of him, causing the priest to flee out into the street in terror. So that worked well, didn't it?
Yeah.
A day or two later, and during daylight hours, Father Giorgio and county prefect, a man called Miho Raditich, dug up the body of Jure Grando. When they did, they recoiled in horror. The same contorted, wicked grin that people had described was plastered across the corpse's face, which had apparently not decomposed in the slightest. The pair tried to drive a stake of hawthorn through the Strigoi heart, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't puncture its chest. It was as if they were trying to hammer their sharp wooden stick through solid rock. But like your manly chest there, Neil.
Yeah, I understand that.
Following night, 9 villagers decided to take matters into their own hands. They exhumed the body again and found it was still perfectly preserved. Well, 24 hours
since the
late,
afternoon.
what do you expect? And with that grim smile still on its face, like Father Giorgio and Miho Raditich, the 9 villagers tried to drive a hawthorn stake through Jure Grando's heart, but they were met with the same result. No matter how sharp the stake, how hard they hit it, it simply bounced off. One of the villagers, a chap called Stepan Milosic, lost his patience and took up an axe. Some say it was a saw, but we'll go with an axe, and cut into the Strigoi's throat. Whatever he used, he was able to penetrate the skin, but at the first incision, the eyes of Jure Grando's corpse sprang open with an intense fury, the like of which none of them had ever seen. The wind began to rush about them, and the Strigoi let out an earth-trembling scream. Blood began to pour into the wound, and Jure Grando thrashed and snarled like a wild beast caught in a trap.
Can't look back.
Yes, you're going to.
Before.
Elvis, what you wanted, you never miss an opportunity for a bit of Elvis.
Yeah, sorry. I'm a bit scared.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to go and fetch a blanket or something?
Yeah, I've got one with me. I've got it here now.
You got your teddy bear?
Yeah.
Good. Milosic saw his chance and worked quickly to sever the head as blood gushed around him, spilling out over the top of the rough wooden coffin, as if, freed from captivity, the blood now hurried to find its way back to its original bodies. Some of the 9 fled, but others worked to reseal the grave. Eventually, the decapitated corpse of Jure Grando was dug up one last time. They like digging it up, didn't they? And reburied in an unmarked plot outside of consecrated ground. He was never seen or heard of again. And we know all this because it was first recorded by Johann Vijk Hart von Velvassor, which you'll find is perfectly pronounced.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
His 1689 work, Glory of the Duchy of Carniola, which I should imagine we've all read. Do you get a copy for Christmas now?
Yeah, I've read it several times.
Yeah. Would you?
Yeah, got the graphic novel.
Yeah.
Well, I'll summarise it.
Yeah.
It's
Is it all right? Okay.
Just going to see if I can get it on Audible as an audiobook. That'd be nice for me.
Jure Grando was the first real person to have been legitimately described as a vampire in historical records. To this very day, scientists at the University of Zagreb have researched his case to try and unravel the horrific story, but so far they have not been able.
Perhaps you should dig him up.
Yeah, well, I don't know where he is now.
That's convenient.
It's useful, though, isn't it? What they're doing, that sort of thing, rather than they're out there curing the world of disease or anything like that. They're actually going out there and trying to find a 500-year-old vampire.
I wonder why they used the hawthorn stake as their first choice rather than just chopping the head off as the first choice.
Yeah.
I mean, I know if I had a choice, or burn. And why they went back a second time to try the same. Okay, it didn't work today. Maybe it worked later on.
And if it came out at night, why didn't you go there at night?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also they went back 24 hours later and seemed surprised that he hadn't decomposed, even though it hadn't decomposed 24 hours earlier.
Or 16 years prior to that.
Are we saying between us that there's something doesn't ring quite true in this story?
Yes.
I know, like with you saying Hawthorne, I know that in Gaelic folklore, Hawthorne is said to mark the entrance towards the other world and has links to fairies. So I don't know if across the world Hawthorne has been seen as this magical thing, which is why they decided in across that area, this is a mythical thing. I'm not sure if that's the link of why they chose to use Hawthorne there. I don't know. Yeah, I know when I was younger there was a sweet that you could buy called Hawflakes. Yep. Spelled HAW because they were made of the berries of hawthorn.
Okay.
And we used to just buy them and we would eat a whole packet of them. And then it sort of had a bit of a laxative effect. It turns out they are used in China as a herbal medicine to help with digestion. And they ended up getting banned because they had sort of colourings and stuff in that the EU had banned because of bad impacts of it. I don't know exactly why, but I know the red colouring in it was actually really bad for you. So they banned them.
Was this a particularly Norfolk treat or was it available everywhere?
No, it was Chinese. It was imported Chinese.
But imported directly to Norfolk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And only Norfolk. Yeah. Well, if you're going to test biological weapons, where's the best place? No one's going to notice.
That's true.
Oh, look, there's 6 fingers dropped off. Then we've got 5 now. Something must be working.
Anyway, listener, thank you for listening to our rather spooky story about Jure Grando, history's first recorded vampire. Do you have anything you wish to say to me, the Boo Foon guys, that would indicate your interest in that story or otherwise? Or if you want to put out a cease and desist letter or a please leave us alone now letter or anything like that, don't darken our door ever again. This is your chance.
I was going to add that a lot of what you were describing there with Jure Grando, especially after his death and that, has a lot of links in Uperior, I think it's pronunciated, which is in Slavic folklore, that's essentially the early vampire. And they actually think that Uperior is where the word vampire has come from. But a lot of the things that you were saying there with his story of they dug him up, he was still in his grave with an eerie smile and still there. I know that that's very much part of that folklore story and belief system. And I know that it tends to be that they believed that they were people where either something bad had happened to cause their death, like an illness or something similar, or something had happened to them after the body had been burned. They would then come back and haunt their families, and they were known to, drink blood and things like that. And they had to kill them. You had to chop. It was something along the lines of you had to chop their head off, and then put the head between the legs, and make sure that they were upside down in their grave, facing the floor, and then that way they then couldn't rise from the grave. So a lot of the things that you said there with his story links in with Uperior legends.
That's true. They've found loads and loads of graves, haven't they? People have been buried vertically in that way. They've also found people buried with bricks in their mouths.
There had to be something in their superstition that there must have been something that happened to cause that. Whether it be this story or something else. It can't just be folklore. Because that's quite
it must have happened, yeah.
Yeah, to go from burying people to desecrating bodies, just to make sure they don't come back. Something must have happened somewhere.
Jure Grando's history's first recorded real person, recorded as a vampire. So before that, there must have been folk stories and things.
Where does garlic come into it?
Naturally, garlic thins your blood, doesn't it? And gets rid of impurities in your blood. It's quite good for you.
Yeah, it does have links with it being linked to being medicinal. and it could then ward off illnesses. So like Steve said, would end up eventually becoming a thing of this garlic wards off illness, therefore it can potentially ward off evil as well because it's an illness. But I remember reading somewhere once about vampires that there are some people that think that the real life cases, it could actually be that they weren't necessarily dead, they're actually people with rabies, because with garlic having that extreme taste and smell is something that the hypersensitivity that you get with rabies, you would end up sort of repelled against. You wouldn't go anywhere near the garlic. And I remember reading this once. I'm not sure if I'm misremembering, but I do remember that there are links between rabies being hypersensitive and then garlic with the strong odor being a thing, almost like a repellent to somebody with rabies. And as part of that, you would also have pale skin and a sensitivity to light because of the hypersensitivity. So I think people then have, like, researchers have linked rabies with potential vampires.
Well, there's something that goes along with that is with traditional vampire stories, legends, vampires don't like crossing water. And of course, if you've got rabies, you have this aversion to water. So water would be a natural barrier to keep running water to keep a vampire away. So there is potentially something there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Thank you, listener, and join us next week on another episode of
Honourable Mentions.
Thank you very much for listening to Honourable Mentions with us, the Boo Foons Mystery Investigators. It's really important that you like, subscribe, share, and leave a 5-star review for both podcasts on whatever platform you choose to listen. And we're extremely grateful if you can. Believe it or not, Honourable Mentions is actually researched. Didn't know that until today and joining you. By Steve Webb, apparently. And it is an Uncover Brothers production. The theme is written and performed by the rock gods, Pepe and the Bandits. You can follow Boo Foons across social media by just searching Boo Foons or Boo Foons Mystery Investigators. And if for some perverted reason you might want to follow Honourable Mentions, you can do the same. Or email them on honourablementionspod@gmail.com. Thank you and goodbye.
Just do that for us, Dan. How come you can't be that professional on our one?
Because Steve literally said that in the email to us.